Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All Gurus, Sri Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Happy Narasimha Chaturdasi. Kiran Prabhuji, whenever you're ready, you can start, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances to all the people who joined this Zoom meeting. Thank you, Sundarana Prabhuji, for giving me this opportunity to read today's Bhagavatam Sloka translations. So, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Let me start with quick prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udarayet नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम 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 हरे. So today we are reading from Canto 10, the Samam Bonam, chapter 39, Akrura's vision, from slokas 20 to 38. So, sloka 20, having shown us Mukunda's face, framed by dark locks and beautified by his fine cheeks, raised nose and gentle smiles, which eradicate all misery, you are now making that face invisible. This behavior of yours is not at all good. Sloka 21. O Providence, though you come here with the name Akrura, you are indeed cruel, for like a fool you are taking away what you once gave us. Those eyes with which we have seen, even in one feature of Lord Madhusudana's form, no, Madhudvasa's form. Madhudvisa's form, the perfection of your entire creation. Sloka 22. Alas, Nanda's son, who breaks loving friendships in a second, will not even look directly at us. Forcefully brought under his control, we abandoned our homes, relatives, children, and husbands just to serve him. But he is always looking for new lovers. Sloka 23. The dawn following this night will certainly be auspicious for the women of Mathura. All their hopes will now be fulfilled, for as the Lord of Braja enters their city, they will be able to drink from his face the nectar of the smile emanating from the corners of his eyes. Sloka 24. O Gopis, although our Mukunda is intelligent and very obedient to his parents, once he has fallen under the spell of the honey sweet words of the women of Mathura and been enchanted by their alluring shy smiles, how will he ever return to us unsophisticated village girls? Sloka 25. When the Dasharas, Dasharahas, Bhojas, Andakas, Vrishnis, Satvatas see the son of Devaki in Mathura, they will certainly enjoy a great festival for their eyes, as will all those who see him traveling along the road to the city. After all, he is the darling of the goddess of fortune and the reservoir of all transcendental qualities. Sloka 26. He who is doing this merciless deed should not be called Akrura. He is so extremely cruel that without even trying to console the sorrowful resident of Raja, he is taking away Krishna, who is more dear to us than life itself. Text 27. Hard hearted Krishna has already mounted the chariot, and now the foolish cowards are hurrying after him in their bullock carts. Even the elders are saying nothing to stop him. Today's fate is working against us. Sloka 28. Let us directly approach Madhava and stop him from going. What can our family elders and other relatives do to us? Now that fate is separating us from Mukunda, our hearts are already wretched, for we cannot bear to give up his association even for a fraction of a second. Sloka 29. When he brought us to the assembly of Rasa dance, where we enjoyed his affectionate and charming smiles, his delightful secret talks, his playful glances, and his embraces, we passed many nights as if they were a single moment. O Gopis, how can we possibly cross over the insurmountable darkness of his absence? Sloka 30. How can we exist without Ananta's friend Krishna, who in the evening would return to Vraja in the company of the cowherd boys, his hair and garland powdered with the dust raised by the cows' hoofs? As he played his flute, he would captivate our minds with his smiling sidelong glances. Sloka 31, Sukdev Goswami said, after speaking these words, the ladies of Vraj, who were so attached to Krishna, felt extremely agitated by his imminent separation from him. They forgot all shame and loudly cried out, O Govinda, O Damodara, O Madhava. Sloka 32. But even as the gopis cried out in this way, Akrura, having at sunrise performed his morning worship and other duties, began to drive the chariot. Sloka 33. Led by Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd men followed behind Lord Krishna in their wagons. The men brought along many offerings for the king, including clay pots filled with ghee and other milk products. Sloka 34. With his glances, Lord Krishna somewhat pacified the gopis, and they also followed behind for some time. Then, hoping he would give them some instruction, they stood still. Sloka 35. As he departed, that best of the Yadus saw how the gopis were lamenting, and thus he consoled them by sending a messenger with his loving promise, I will return. 36 sloka. Sending their minds after Krishna, the gopis stood as motionless as figures in a painting. They remained there as long as the flag atop the chariot was visible, and even until they would no longer see the dust raised by the chariot wheels. Sloka 37. The gopis then turned back without hope that Govinda would ever return to them. Full of sorrow, they began to spend their days and nights chanting about the pastimes of their beloved. Sloka 38. My dear king, the supreme Lord Krishna, traveling as swiftly as the wind in that chariot with Lord Balarama and Akrura, arrived at the river Kalindi, which destroys all the sins. I think that is the end of today's last sloka. And Krishna Venu Prabhu will give the overview of these slokas. Whenever you are ready, please take over the call, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Sundarananda Prabhu, for giving this opportunity to share few points from Srimad Bhagavatam, purports and translations for my own purification. And thank you, Kiran Prabhuji, for reading today's Bhagavatam section, Slokas translation. So we'll start with prayers. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschaptadeshtarani Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktarunda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you all for joining for today's Bhagavatam session. And today being Lord Narasimhadev's appearance day, so wish you all a happy Krishna conscious Narasimha Chaturdasi. And I pray at the lotus feet of Lord Narasimhadev to shower his choicest blessings on all of us so that we can continue to practice this Krishna consciousness and progress in the spiritual life. So, and today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, chapter 39, Akrura's Vision, and from slokas 20 to 38. So, just to give a background, so in the last chapter we heard how on the order of Kamsa, Akrura travelled from Mathura to Vrindavan, and while he was travelling from Mathura to Vrindavan also we heard how he meditated on the Supreme Lord Krishna and Balaram. And once he arrived to Vrindavana, we saw how Supreme Lord Krishna and Balarama honored Akrura. And in the last section we heard from Her Grace Ras Chandrika Mataji nicely summarized how Krishna and Balarama offered Akrura great respect and gave a comfortable seat, and with that Akrura felt that all his desires were fulfilled. And then after the evening meal, Krishna asked Akrura how was his trip, and then he inquired about Kamsa and his behavior toward their family members, and I also asked the reason that he came. And then of course Akrura described that how Kamsa is giving trouble to all the Yadavas, and then he also spoke Kamsa's desire to bring Krishna and Balarama. The intent is to kill both of them, and the reason to bring them is to see the bow sacrifice. And then Krishna Balarama, of course, they laughed, and then they went to Nanda Maharaj and informed Kamsa's order. And Nanda Maharaj and with all the residents, they collected various offerings for the king to offer it, and then they prepared to travel to Mathura. And we heard how when the news reached to this news to the young gopis, they were extremely upset, and they began to lament. And in that lament we heard how they condemned the Creator for separating them from Supreme Lord Krishna and Balarama. So that Viraha Gita is started yesterday, so we'll continue that. And in this section we will see two wonderful inspiring subject matters. So one is we see that anticipation of Krishna's separation, how the young gopis were showing their pure love for Krishna. And then also we see the subtle offense that a devotee can perform while serving Krishna to the other devotees. So we have so one should be very cautious to while serving the Supreme Lord Krishna. So make sure that we have to see the other devotees are not offended, knowingly or unknowingly, unintentionally, like that. So the young gopis here we see that so Krishna, seeing that Krishna is about to leave Vrindavana to Mathura, so they are in a great lamentation, and then they are condemning the providence. The sloka 20 they are saying that the providence that you showed Krishna's lotus feet, yastvam pradarsaya, and then we became attracted, and now you are separating, karosi paroksham. So this is not appropriate. So they are condemning the providence. Of course, they are very exalted devotees. So we see in the Gopi Gita also, like how they find fault in Brahma's creation, because he gave the eyelids, because that eyelids interrupts their constant seeing of Krishna. So when Krishna is going to forest to tend the cows, or while coming, so that's the time that the young gopis could see the Supreme Lord Krishna, and at that time these highlights are interrupting their concentration, so they condemn, they find fault Brahma's creation. Of course, they are pure devotees, so we cannot imitate. So, and we see their pure devotion also at Krishna's lotus feet, because they are willing to be suffered in a hellish planet for Krishna's pleasure, anything like that. So we heard that pastime, like when Krishna was in Dwarka, so he performed this pastime of having a severe headache, and he told to his queens and sage Narada that only medicine is that can cure him is to bring the dust of his lord, the dust from his devotees, and then apply on his head. So then Narada approached great sages, brahmanas, devotees, queens, many of them all refused, because uh, if they give their dust and that is put on the head of the Supreme Lord Krishna, then it's a great sin. So they have to suffer in hellish planets. But when Narada went to Vrindavana and the gopis, knowing that, immediately they gave. So, and when Narada asked that this would make them to suffer in hellish planet for a long time, then they replied that they don't care, as long as Krishna is cured and he feels happiness, that is their success. So we see how gopis, they have the intense love for Krishna, that they have no self-interest, anyabhilashita sunyam, and that's why they consider the supreme devotees. They are the topmost devotees, because they risk everything for Krishna's effort. Here also we see in this section that gopis are saying that they abandoned their homes, relatives, children, and husbands. Vihaya gehan swajanan sutan patims. So they have abandoned. For what purpose? To serve Krishna. Tadasyam. So that's why, because they are in the pure transcendental platform and they are in the pure love of Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also recommends to follow the footsteps of these gopis. Even though he is a sannyasi and very strictly avoids association, he says that Ramya Kachit Upasana Vrajavadu Vargena Ya Kalpita. So there is no better worship than what we see that is done by these gopis. So because they wanted to love Krishna at any risk. So that is the nature of the pure devotees. They serve Krishna at any risk. We see in the Srila Prabhupada's life also, right? He took a great risk by traveling all the way from India to US in a cargo ship for many days with 2 heart attacks and with no money and not knowing anyone here, just for giving this Krishna consciousness for the pleasure of his Guru and Krishna. So that devotees can go to any extent to please Krishna. Of course, as a sadhaka, I may not be able to follow that much, but following in their footstep, we can also take little risk, whatever we can, without impeding our bhakti, progress of the bhakti, like chanting more time or spending a little bit more time in our Krishna conscious activities. Tivrena bhakti yogena. Just add a little bit more time to time, progressing our Krishna consciousness in our life. Then gopis are also saying here, like, they see the great fortune of the residents of Madura, because Krishna is leaving Vrindavana and going to Madura. So all the residents of Madura, they can have darshan of the Supreme Lord Krishna, and they get opportunity to see his beautiful face, Mukham. And not only that, they can drink from his face the nectar of the smile. So whatever the smile that Krishna shows, so they can drink Pashyanti. And also the gopis in the great separation, So they are thinking whether Krishna will return once he goes to Madura, whether he will return or not. And here they are saying that seeing the shy smiles of Madura woman, Salajjasmita Vibhramahe. So whether he will come or not. Because we heard in the last section also that either Yashoda, Mother Yashoda or Nanda Maharaj, they were thinking that so he will go and see that festival, the bow sacrifice, and come back in within 2 to 3 days like that. But here gopis, they are afraid that whether he will come back or not. So that's why gopis are saying that why these elders are saying nothing to stop him. Staviraha upekshitam. So why they are not doing anything, and why these foolish cowherds are hurrying after him in their bullock carts. And then they are saying that so today the fate is against us. Daivam cha no adya pratikulam ihate, like that. So in the purport also quoting Srila Sridhara Swami, so this reveals the gopis thought. So he is saying that these foolish cowherdman elders are not trying to stop Krishna, but they are not realizing that they are committing suicide, because they are helping Krishna to go to Madura, but if Krishna doesn't come, then they have to come back all by themselves to Vrindavana, and that will certainly uh, lead their death in his absence. In his separation, they cannot survive like that. So that's why gopis, because the elders are not stopping, so they thought that why don't we go directly and stop him? Because until now they whatever the love that they have, so they are maintaining it in secret, so no one knows it. But here Srila Vishnu Chakravarti also in the purport, so he mentions that so the thought process of gopis saying that we'll go directly to Krishna and pull at his clothes and hands and insist that he should get down from his chariot, and we will tell that if you don't stay here, then you will get the sinful reaction for murdering so many women. Because in his absence, so all these gopis are indirectly telling that we will die, so that sin will come to him, like that. So there, that's the thought process. And then gopis were thinking that if we go directly and do this, then what would our relatives will think? So they will discover our secret love that we had for Krishna, and then they will abandon us. And then they thought that so what can they do to us? So already our lives are destroyed, like, because Krishna is leaving. So if he is leaving, then there's nothing for them to lose. So that's why they were thinking that even if the elders or relatives punish them and lock them, but at least if we request Krishna to stay in the village, not to go to Madura, so then at least we know that even though we are locked in the house, so by knowing that Krishna is on our village, and if one gopi cannot go and meet, but at least some other gopis can be able to go and bring Krishna's remnants, Mahaprasadam, and with that they can alive, like that. So like that they were thinking. And not only that, they were also thinking like how they spent their time in rasa dance for a long time. So we heard in that chapter, am I right, that rasa dance went for 1 day of Lord Brahma. So it's a Sahasra Yuga, so 1000 Mahayugas. It's a very long time. But for them, it is like a movement. But the separation of a movement, they see that it is a very long time. So the association with the Krishna for a long time is a moment, but the separation, even for a moment, it is a long time for them, because they are in a intense love with Krishna, like that. So that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also in Sistastakam, he says that Yugaitam Nimeshana. So your separation of even a nimisha, like a moment, is like a yuga. So so that's how the pure devotees feels, like that's the nature of the devotees. So that's why unable to bear that separation, so the gopis finally came forward, ignoring the social customs and then they loudly cried out, saying that Govinda, Damodara, Madhava iti, like that. Oh Govinda, oh Damodara, oh Madhava, like that. So they cried loudly. So in the purport also, it's mentioned that for a long time the gopis they were carefully hidden their love for Krishna, but now the Krishna was leaving, so they are so distressed that they could no longer hide their feelings. So that's why they came in front and then they started calling Krishna and loudly cried out. But of course, even though they were crying like that, Akrura, so what he was doing is, even though gopis are crying, so he performed his morning worship and other duties and he started to drive the chariot. Akrura Chodhyam Ashakruta Maitradiko Ratam, like that. So in the purport, it's mentioned that so this is what some Vaishnava authorities they say that offended the gopis. So Akrura offended the gopis. So what is that offense? He did not try to console gopis before taking Krishna. Asav anasvasya sudukkitam janam. So gopis were crying, anticipating Krishna's separation, but here Akrura, he did not try to console gopis. So he started driving the chariot. So that's why gopis are saying that he is not Akrura, but he is Krura, cruel. Ativa Darunaha, not only just cruel, but extremely cruel. And because of this offense only we will hear in the upcoming chapter, Akrura is also forced to leave Dwarka and separated from Krishna. So that will come during the episode of Samantaka Jewel. But of course Krishna being a Bhakta Vatsala and Akrura being a devotee, so he brings personally Akrura back to Dwarka and he gives his association. So that pastime is very wonderful. We will hear that in the chapter 57 of this 10th canto. So Krishna is teaching an instruction through these wonderful devotees, how a devotee should be very careful, even though while performing a service to Supreme Lord Krishna, we have to make sure that no other devotees are offended with our service. Because sometimes knowingly and unknowingly or unintentionally we may probably perform an offense. So that's why we should be very careful and we should always pray to the Supreme Lord Krishna that even if unknowingly if I have done any offense to any devotee, so please forgive us, forgive me, and then help me to not to make the offenses unknowingly also to any devotee, and then progress in the Krishna consciousness. So not only these instructions are helpful in our spiritual growth, even on our day-to-day material life also, whether we are at home or office, so we have to see that we are not offending, so that our relationship will be strong and continue like that. So there are similar pastimes also in the scriptures, like we hear in Bhakti Ratnakara, so one beautiful pastime, like one day Srila Rupa Goswami, so he is also in observation, in meditation, so he is in samadhi, so he is experiencing intense bliss. In his meditation he was witnessing a wonderful pastime where the gopis were decorating Srimati Radharani and Krishna is watching from behind. And when Mother Radharani saw Krishna's reflection in the mirror, then she shyly covered herself. And then gopis laughed with this pastime. And then Rupa Goswami is in meditation, so he also, because he is a Manjari, he joined and he also laughed. So of course at that moment there is a Vaishnava devotee named Krishnadasa. So he has a some leg problem, like lame, he's lame. So he arrived to see Rupa Goswami. But at that time Rupa Goswami is laughing because he is meditating on that pastime. He is seeing that pastime. And this Krishnadasa, so he wrongly thought that Rupa Goswami was laughing at his disability. So he felt very sad and he left without saying. And because of this misunderstanding, Rupa Goswami's ecstasy was lost. And then on the suggestion of Sanatan Goswami, So he understood that he may probably offended a devotee unknowingly. Of course, he didn't want to offend. He was in meditation, but this devotee thought Rupa Goswami was laughing because of his leg issues, lame. So then Rupa Goswami arranged a great feast and invited all the devotees, but this devotee did not come. So one who felt offended. So then Rupa Goswami understood that so this devotee was offended. So he went to him, apologized profusely, and he explained the reason why he was laughing at that time, like he was in meditation, seeing that pastime. Then this devotee also realized his mistake because he doubted this pure devotee Rupa Goswami. Then he also felt terrible that he offended Rupa Goswami by mistakenly thinking that Rupa Goswami laughed at him. Of course, Rupa Goswami being a great devotee, so he turned all the situation into an exchange of love. So that's why similarly we should also pray to Krishna that if unknowingly I offended any devotees, so please forgive and shower his mercy they can, so that we can progress in Krishna consciousness. So that there are many pastimes Krishna gives us through these wonderful scriptures, through these wonderful devotees, how we can be very cautious while performing our services. And if at all we know that some devotee offended, as Rupa Goswami did, we should also beg forgiveness from them and explain the situation, like what is going on, like that. And then in this pastime, in this section, we see that so how the gopis were lamenting while Krishna is leaving and then looking for his instruction, and then Krishna sent a message that he will return. And of course, gopis, so they stood there until Krishna's chariot is not seen, and then they with so much unhappiness, so they began to spend their days and night chanting about the pastime of the Supreme Lord. So this is another thing that we should see, that so all the time whenever we have opportunity, we should always chant this wonderful Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and remember the pastime of the Supreme Lord. So then we hear the last sloka that Krishna traveling swiftly as the wind in the chariot with Lord Balarama, and Akrura took the chariot to the river Kalandi, so which destroys all sins. So we'll see so what happens next in the next section. So I'll pause it here. Thank you all for joining. Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vranda ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhya vaishnavebhya namo namo. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.